So, welcome back to the Elevate with Us podcast. Whether it's your first time here or you've been with me on all the episodes, welcome back. Please be sure to like, share, and just do everything you can to spread the news on this podcast. We are really, really in for a treat today for all the realtors out there. I am so humbled to welcome Sherri Johnson to the podcast today. She is an exceptional real estate coach, and she's going to be sharing some amazing nuggets with us as we all pivot in this crazy real estate world. So Sherri, thank you so much for coming today. I so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
How did you get here? Like, I don't think you woke up one day and were like, hey, I'm a real estate coach. So how did that start?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I love Elevate. I think the name is awesome. I'm already inspired just sitting here talking with you. I started in, 1996 and had a real estate career for about 10 years in sales and selling. And it was funny, after my first actual year, before the end of my first year, I had a background in management consulting and speaking and training, and I trained companies and executives all over the really Ohio for the most part. But I wanted to have a national speaking, coaching, and consulting company when I was 27 years old.
Wow.
So at the end of my very first year in real estate, I made a proclamation that I would, in fact, at one point in the future, have a national speaking, coaching, and consulting company. And 20 years later, after selling a lot of houses for about 10 years, and then running the now largest privately owned independent company out of Ohio. They're a really Pittsburgh-based firm. They bought the company I was with, another independent in Cleveland, Ohio. I ran that. I became a manager, leader, executive, and had about 800 agents and just shy of $2 billion in annual sales that we grew from 600 million very quickly. I walked off the cliff, single mother, and my whole, literally left that job in 2017, 20 years after I had said I was going to do it. And at age 47, and just started Sherri Johnson Coaching, speaking, and consulting. And I've never looked back. It's been really a dream come true, and almost like boiling the ocean, because I never, people would say, what do you want to do with this? And I was like, everything. And it's been, it's been more than I ever imagined. And it's just really been a great ride. But there's nothing more exciting than changing lives for people. And so when people pull me off the stage and they say, Goldmine Pipeline changed my life, and I used to make $40,000 a year, and now I make 300 or 250, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The financial freedom. And it's really been such a fun 7 years now, that it's hard to believe it's been 7 years, but I did intend to do this. Like, I actually tell people, like, I said I was going to do it, and I never took my eye off of that. And it's funny because when people say, how did you just walk up a cliff and like get these big accounts so quickly? And it's like, because you have to say, I'm doing this. And if you're the first person to believe you're going to do it, and you believe you can, and you just already see yourself successful doing it, you can do it. And there were a lot of people who told me, doesn't work, nobody signs up. They actually were like pitying me at a conference. And they were literally like, oh, it's funny. Yeah, the naysayers.
Were you with like other coaches? It was like a real estate
it was actually, I was at Inman. Yeah, I was at Inman, which I believe like launched my Inman launched my coaching company. They didn't even know it. I was hired by homes.com there to be their national speaker. But before I met the people at homes.com, I had a coach tell me, she was patting me on the hand, and she said, it doesn't work. And I tried it, and it's not going to work. And you think people are going to sign up? And I was like, well, I'm sorry that it didn't work for you. I'm doing this. And it's like, it didn't work for her, whatever. But like, that's part of your mindset. Like, you have to say, I'm doing this and I'll figure out a way. And there's a lot of failing forward, but enthusiasm and determination and just like tenacity go a long way. But yeah, I did set out to do this, weirdly. And I share that story because I think people, I wanted to be a $10 million agent before I was a $10 million agent. and you have to like say, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
I just have to figure out how, and then I'm going to go do it. Teach me, show me, follow the winners, etc. But you have to like know where you're going. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, certainly, but because I didn't have a master game plan written, I just sort of jumped off the cliff and, build your wings on the way down. But it's been a lot of fun. And so it was intentional, but I also didn't really know what it was going to completely look like. And here I am. So yeah, long-winded answer, but
no, I mean, but it's amazing. I mean, there's so many great nuggets out of that should be very inspirational for a ton of people, whether you're an entrepreneur, not in real estate field, or you are. There's just so many things there. Like people are so afraid to take risks, right? Because we're so afraid of failure. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, I have learned so much more from failing than I have from succeeding, right? Like failure hurts, but from it, you're like, okay, I did X, I got not what I wanted, and how am I going to make it work? And I'm sure that you have had the same thing. Like people weren't even believing in you. Other coaches were like, this doesn't work, don't do it. Probably just go back to real estate. Just go back to real estate.
Yeah, I don't even know what their suggestion was. They just wanted me to know it didn't work. And it's like it's not easy, I mean, like there are things that anything worth doing is going to take a lot of work. I came from two entrepreneurial parents who started a company from nothing. They were in the commercial printing industry, and they started a company in 1966 with $500. Neither of them got into college, and they were wildly successful, and sold that company when it wasn't for sale back in about 94. And so that experience and watching them and being literally taught this at, age 8, 10, 14, whatever, and getting this like MBA at the dinner table, like you really, when you grow up with that kind of, example, and I owe it all to them. They're so funny. They're both, thankfully with us. They're very active, very, very smart, two unbelievable driven people. But, when you grow up learning from both parents, and it's, my mom was just as involved in the company, which there weren't many female.
Sure. I would imagine it was very unusual. Yeah.
She was, barely 5 foot tall, and there were just a lot of opportunities to learn. This is what you do, and I used to say, what if you lost it all? And they said, we'd start over. So when you have that,
you fail. You just can't be. I mean, I think that, and I use that expression that you said too, you got to fall forward. Like it's okay. There's nothing wrong with like making a mistake or even, thinking that your coaching business was going to look like this, and you have to pivot it a little bit. Like, and I know right now in real estate, there's a lot of pivoting happening, and there's a lot of realtors that aren't going to make it because of it, right? Because they're too scared. They're afraid of not being able to get things done the way they're used to, which is really unfortunate that people are so afraid to fail, because it's nothing to be scared of. They even talk about, all the thing, Walt Disney was told no so many times. Oprah was told no so many times.
They were. Yeah.
So many times. And thank goodness they had tenacity, and it's one of my favorite words. And when I meet realtors and I try to ask them some like troubleshooting questions and whatnot, if they talk about the reason why they want to get into real estate is because they like houses.
Right. And people.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, well, I don't think you understand what we do. But if instead they talk about helping people,
yeah,
I know I can teach you how to sell real estate. I can teach you how to show a house, but I can't teach you a desire to help.
That's right. And you also, I liked when they say, I like to solve problems.
Oh, yes. And that's really what we're paid for. We're
paid to do.
Solve problems. It is not about finding the right house at all. And anyone that thinks that needs to call us. We're paid big money to solve problems.
Solving problems and adding value. And I think that's like those two things. But, failing isn't an option, but failure gets you there. So it's like, you say to yourself, I'm not going to fail, but failure is part of the process. And it's part of the process. And it's like, oh, okay, adjust, pivot. what you were talking about with today's environment, like I had this little note, you just reminded me of it. Actually, I was like, it says the person who can change the most will succeed the most.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
It's so true. And it's like, the pain is in the resistance to change, not the actual change itself. The pain comes from the resisting of, oh, I don't want to get a new phone. I wanted my BlackBerry. Like, and some of you are like, what is a BlackBerry? But I had to make those changes.
I did love a BlackBerry.
We all did. And we were like, I can't touch a screen and I don't want that. And now what would we do? I couldn't go back to a BlackBerry. But the pain is in the resistance, not the actual change itself. And today's opportunities, there's never been a better time to hone your skills and say, I'm a professional and this is how I work and this is how I get paid. And oh, by the way, let's be honest, we were never guaranteed to be paid before. And while I don't want it to come as a result of what I think is not the right way that this came about, because it didn't have to be like this. And I don't agree with what we're being penalized for. I don't agree with the suit. But underlying that is an opportunity for everybody to say, you know what? I never did explain how I get paid. And how many agents, Tanya, went out and showed houses and lost the sale and never got paid? And the more I have this conversation with what?
Many.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we all have been there where, you know what? They got away. We didn't have a guarantee. We didn't have agreement. And so I have to tell you a cute story. I literally in 1996 with a buyer's agency agreement form that no one in my office used because it wasn't required in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And I actually came into my office with it signed with a retainer fee of $1,500.
Wow, rock star.
And I didn't know any differently. And I said to my manager, here's the check. And she goes, oh, is that earnest money? And I said, no, it's a retainer fee from the buyer agreement, exclusive buyer agreement. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, there's a retainer fee line in the exclusive buyer agreement and I collected it. And she's like, no one's ever done. And I said, well, I did. And she was like, who taught you this? I said, well, an attorney would do this. I'm doing it. So I told the people, when you buy a house, you'll get this money back. If I never see you again, I've been paid for some of my services. And it just became, this is how I work for you. Now, I'm sad to say I stopped doing it because I didn't have to. And of course, everyone in the office was like, oh, you have to do that. So within about 2 years, I was not still collecting this. But there are ways whenever we are faced with something new. And I was around when I got my license, we changed from from a sub-agency where we always represented the sellers. Not many people know this, to buyer agency. And
people don't realize that buyer agency is a relatively new principle in real estate, because I think we're at a time where people never saw it the other way, right? Like they never, a lot of the buyers we have now have only been around since buyer agency. So and when you tell them it started in the 90s, they're like, what started in the 90s? Real estate? I'm like, no. Yeah, buyer agency. That's why listing to last has always been a thing, because previously only listing agents got paid.
That's right. Exclusive meant only the agent could sell.
Yes.
Yes. Also another funny term no one knows the history of. But there is the evolution, if you will. But to me, this is an opportunity, and it is, it starts with having a plan, which again, 95 to 97% of real estate agents do not have a written business plan, which is for you and I, like we would never run our business without a plan. Wrote a plan, we implemented the plan and executed on it. And so it's just about action and having a plan. And I think what happens in coaching is, I always say coaching isn't making people great. It's bringing out the greatness they have. They just don't know how to tap into that and the full potential that comes from that. Having a coach, like when you had a coach in high school or college who pushed you to be a better athlete, who, small changes in behavior that result in massively significant results. Again, taking this, running with it and saying, what can I do to go from, how do you go from, doubling or tripling your income, well, we do that. But first you have to think you can do it. You know, if you're just doing the business that's coming at you, that might be okay. And it might give you a decent income. But as we were talking before the show, like how many people are just living paycheck to paycheck or having this feast and famine?
Yeah.
What I call in my book, you know, the book is called The Long Game. But in the book, I talk about the dangers of, you know, impatient selling, or also what I call like crisis selling, where you are literally paycheck to paycheck. You sell a house 1 month, you don't sell a house, feast, famine.
Yeah, because they don't keep in touch with their customers and whatnot. No, I mean, I think it's a lot. I mean, realtors are not necessarily taught how to run a business, even though they hear about all the time, run your business like a business, but that doesn't mean anything to them unless they like ask a question like, hey, you're a business owner, and it might be like someone that owns, you know, a local pizza shop that they know. What do you do? And they're not going to take every dollar that comes in and spend it. Which we talked about this before the show is an unfortunate consequence of realtors because they, like you just said, feast or famine. They might not have been paid for a couple of months. So they immediately spend all that money because that's just what they've done along the way. And I like to tell agents to divide every paycheck into 5 pieces. Like you pay yourself with one, taxes with one, you save one, you invest, and then you might want to like have some stuff for your business, like signs and luck boxes and open house signs and paying your dues and all the things so that when they come up, you don't have any money. So you shouldn't just take your paycheck and spend it. You need to divide it up into different buckets.
Yeah. You have to not spend it before you get it either. So it's
there's that too. There is that opportunity for agents as well to yeah.
But I think too, like the probably the biggest mindset shift I see, number one, is either a scarcity mindset or an abundant mindset. And we're going to cover this, you know, when we talk with your team this next month, which I can't wait to do. But when you think about the scarcity mindset in not just your income, but like they have a scarcity issue of not enough leads in the pipeline. And so that's why the feast and famine happens, because you are literally, you have 3 people, let's say, that you're giving your time and attention to.
Yeah.
And if those 3 people, Tanya, buy, you're spending the next 3 to 4, 6 weeks closing those. Yeah. And then what happens? You're like, I have no business. I have to start.
Right. Because you didn't prospect. You spend all your time and energy on them. You didn't divide your day up. You're not, planning out your day in a way that has prospecting and nurturing and time for
follow up, and
probably not time blocking.
And what they do, and if those three people don't buy, now we have nothing. We have 0 because their plans change. You didn't find them a house. They're not ready. And so if you triple the number of, I mean, like literally, we know exactly how many people need to be on, the Sherri Johnson Goldmine Pipeline. That results in creating a double your income, double or triple your income by having a full pipeline. And instead of like, I think the other thing is like every lead is a good lead. We discount.
There are no bad leads and there are no good leads. Every lead is a lead. They're all created equal. No brokerages get better leads than other brokerages. No people get better leads. You didn't get better leads than I did, which lead to you being successful and me being successful. It's what you do with them.
And they discount that if they discount them if they don't want to buy something right now. And it's like, you don't have enough A people.
Yeah, they're like, done with you. Oh, you're not ready for a year? I'll call you in a year. No.
Meanwhile, those people will buy or sell. And every agent listening to this, how many times did you not follow up with somebody you didn't think was serious? And you called them, or worse off, you didn't even hear from them. You saw a sign in their yard 2 weeks, a month later.
It's like, it hurts your soul.
It hits a slam on the gut with a baseball bat. And on top of it, I say opportunities aren't lost. They go to someone else. So if you don't follow up with those people, and there are a lot of coaches, Tanya, that say after you get ghosted after the 3rd time, drop those people. Well, the fact is it's 5 contacts to get a closed piece of business, or not even closed, just for someone to return your call. So always follow up on every single lead. Just because someone isn't returning your call or text doesn't mean they're not ever going to buy. They're just busy. And I think we throw it out as they're not ready. And in fact, how many times have you met someone and you get an appointment and they told you at the beginning of the week at the open house, we're not going to move for 6 months to a year. You show up at their house, they swing the door open and they say, oh my gosh, Sherri, we're so happy you're here. We decided we're going to do this now.
And it's been like 2 weeks.
And it was, and you're like, thank goodness I booked this, because every single lead, we need to meet people where they are, add value, and nurture. You said earlier, nurture and help those people, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. And I'm going to get that business because I added value and because I created a relationship. And you can have less people. You don't have to call 350 people a week. I mean, have a better strategy.
But have a better strategy.
A lot of that's exhausting. And I mean, those leads. So I'm in a coaching session live at a company, and I'm watching this woman as I'm describing the Goldmine Pipeline, how to follow up with people for weeks and months and never stop following up with them. And I said, coaches out there say after the third ghost to dump them. And I said to this woman, I said, what's the matter? Why are you so? And she was counting all the people that her former coach had told her to drop. And she's like, I'm just counting up all the money that I let go of because I dropped all those people. And she was so initially like disgusted because she's like, I purposefully dropped them because they told me to. So everyone listening, go through your phone, scroll back to a year ago and you'll find unengaged leads in there. Go through your client list, go through, your literally create your success by putting people on your pipeline, and you will create the success. It's just stay with these people. They're going to buy sooner or later. We just don't know when. And you need future business. Like the whole premise of my long game book is that if you play the long game and you have people on there, like 12 months from now, everybody, you need business. So keep the people.
Absolutely.
Like the whole idea is in 8 months, the people that said 12 months are going to buy or sell in 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, I say cut it in half. They say
building the pipeline.
3 months. They always seem to be half of what they say they're going to do. So that's why if you don't reach out, even if they said don't call me for a year, if you reached out in 4 months, they're probably they might remember, but most people aren't going to remember, and they're just going to be like, hey, oh my gosh, so great to hear from you. I loved meeting you at that open house. But you've got to provide value, right? You've got to say, hey, I know when I met you at 123 Main Street, you wished it had a large backyard. I don't know if you know, but I know you're not ready for a year. But 123 Elm Street on the road, road right next door, same floor plan is, has an oversized lot. Just you got to like have some meat and potatoes for them. You can't just, you want to buy a house? It doesn't work.
Or how about I come in and see your house? I would love to save you time and money before you hire a contractor to put in things that you don't even know you should put in. I can save you time. I can save you money. Who doesn't want to save time and money, by the way? And also, like, get an appointment with those people and go see their house. Because the minute, 82% of the time, the person who goes over the door. Yes, you walk over that threshold, there's a good chance you're going to be their agent. 82% of the time, you're going to get the listing now or in 6 months. And I don't care.
That's incredible stat.
I'm not going anywhere. And I want your business and I want to earn your trust and earn your confidence. And by the way, that slate floor in the back hallway, I know that today's buyers love slate. You don't know that you haven't sold a house in 12 years. We're going to keep the slate floor there and we're going to put that money somewhere else in your house for a faster sale. Or better yet, keep it in your pocket. And like people are like, oh my God, that's like wow value. That's
because they often want to do updates that are not super value added, or they want to do updates that are taste specific to them, right? Like, and they're like, hey, I'm going to paint, and I've always wanted orange walls, and you're like, I appreciate that you love the color orange, however,
not sure that we're cutting out 50% of the buying. Yeah. That's why we go to relocation beige. Yes. They named it agreeable gray, which
now we do gray. It's just would be the color scheme that's in between gray and tan that everybody seems to like.
That's right.
So your book sounds really great. It sounds like a great opportunity for agents. I firmly believe in reading. We send out a newsletter for the agents called the Plan of the Week, and I always have a little a little snippet I put in. And this past week, it was 10 books that I think add value. My first broker in 2007 said, Tanya, if you want to get better, you will outperform all realtors if you read professional development books. Whatever's in that book probably cost the writer lots and lots of money to learn that information, and you can buy it for 20 bucks. And I have taken that to heart forever. I am always reading, I'm always learning, listening to now we have podcasts, back then we didn't. So the long game sounds like something all realtors could benefit for. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. And it's about a strategy for anyone in sales, philosophy wise, to but obviously most of my experience all comes from selling houses. But I leveraged when I first got my license, my dad said to me, you might not sell a house for 6 months. You might want to get another job. Now I was 26. I had a condo payment, a car payment, and a really high shopping habit, which I probably still have today. And I'm, like I said, single.
You were adulting very hard.
I was 26. And I literally, I was like, I'm not, like, if I can't sell a house in 6 months, I'm not doing this. Like, if it takes me that long, this will be an epic fail. I'll do something else. And I had 5 sales my very first month. And I started with a written business plan, and I was like off and running. And what's great about this story, Tanya, is and I say the 5 sales, one of them came from my sphere, from a friend of mine, Tim, who had been friends with me since 3rd grade. And he bought a condo from me, and that was great.
Yep.
The other 4 came from my first listing that was a floor call that I sold myself at an open house. The people who bought it had a house to sell. I sold that in less than 2 weeks. And then I picked up a buyer from that open house. So I had 4 sales from one house. Okay.
As you should.
And I immediately said, this is how you do real estate. You multiply a listing. And so the entire book is based on 2 things: growing a pipeline for the future of, you need business 6, 8, 10, 12, 18 months from now. And also leveraging one sale into 5 to 7 more sales. And so that's my entire coaching program, kind of in a nutshell. But the book covers, and really, I came up with, micro farming and how to farm differently than most agents have farmed in the past, where you go to the neighbors, etc. But our strategy is it's so creative, it's so different, and it's so exclusive, and it just works. It helps leverage the sale. We're in an industry where it's sort of this transactional one and done. We kind of put the house up.
That drives me nuts.
I know. And so we launched the listing on a Monday. It sells by Wednesday, and people say, I can't do an open house, or I can't do a neighborhood open house preview because it's already sold. And I'm like, well, have a better strategy. Launch the property on a Friday and have a grand open house event and do all the things that we tell you to do. So it's really about having a better strategy as to build relationships by adding value, the whole book. And my father taught me, if you don't add value, like, no one's going to hire you. So you have to add value. You have to do more value.
Know their value, which is, we kind of danced around it, is most realtors don't have a business plan. They don't have a value prop. They don't have a why. They don't have, you could teach something to a group of 100 realtors and they all heard the same thing. And because we have an abundance mindset and we know that there's enough business for everyone, the way I interpret it and the way the realtor next door to me gets it, we're going to spit it out differently. The value prop that we put out is different. But if they don't know their value prop because they haven't spent hard time. I mean, I am not going to tell you that business planning is easy. I may cry every year when I do business planning. It's hard for me. I'm not like I used to be a scientist. So I'm like a hard thinker. Like, I like logic and numbers. I like to be in a box. Outside box scares me a lot. I like order and things like that. And business planning is like the future, right? Like, I'm going to, you're putting together steps to get there, but it's like hypothetical. And I think that the other number one thing you need to do if you do a business plan, you need to revisit it like every quarter to say, oh, wow, like interest rates just went up 4 points. I need to readjust my value prop could and should be. And they're not, agents, because I have sold real estate for years. I'm talking from experience, are not always that good at it. Because it's scary.
Yeah, we do it monthly and even weekly, how many listing appointments do you have this week? Do you know, do you track anything? Like it can't, part of the book talks about, leveraging the sales, but the other piece of it is, do I have a way to track and measure? Because what we track and measure improves. We know this is
100%. Not good at it. Not good.
And so I learned, successability, which is really accountability in a new phraseology of saying, you know what, accountability is not a bad thing. And when you track and measure something and then you turn it into another human being with that piece of accountability, it catapults and accelerates your results. I mean, there's no better way. I'm going to sit in bed and tell myself and grade my own papers that I ran 6.5 miles on Sunday and I don't have to run again. But if I'm going to meet my trainer, I've made a commitment with this other person. I have to do this.
Yeah, right.
Stephanie, she's like, where are you? And I get better results than trying to go to Lifetime Fitness on my own and saying, and in real estate sales, here's what we do. Oh, well, I have 4 closings right now, so I'm good. No, you're not actually. My concern is where the next 4 to 7 deals coming from. Because I'm not on the pipeline and you're not doing any prospecting right now and you're not filling the pipeline with future leads. So it's really like you can de-stress your entire life by having what I call the 10-minute business plan. Figure out how much you want to make, what you would have to make, like to make, and love to make. That seems like sky's the limit crazy.
Right.
I would rather you shoot for the moon, right? And land on some stars with some 10x crazy wild goal that seems possible. And I'll put that into context in a moment. I'd rather you shoot for the moon and land on stars than shoot for the flagpole and just hit the flagpole. Because as much as I love the flagpole is not that high.
But it's the same thing. Like agents are afraid to fail. So like, let's pretend they're a $5 million producer, which is a great producer, right? That you're making a really good income, but man, they just really want to get to 20, but they're so afraid to write it down and get to 15 and be like, oh, I failed. But did you 3x'd? That's amazing. Right. It's okay. Life happens. Like maybe you got pneumonia in the middle of the year, right? Things might have happened that prevented you to get there. But I bet if you hadn't made 20 million your goal, you would have only gotten to 10.
That's right. You shortchange yourself. I mean, we don't have big enough goals. And we have to realize that. I had an agent, she wanted to go from 3 to 9 million in 1 year. And she said, can I do first year? She did 3 million. She wanted to do 9 her second. She did 8.5 her second year. She was upset she didn't hit 9. And I said, forget the 9. I already have you at 12. Like the 9 got you to 8.5 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 9 is now gone. We're at a new benchmark. We're at a new number, and that new number is at 12. And now she does, 14 million. So it's literally a bigger mindset of thinking, what could you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? Like, what's another $200,000 to do your life? I don't know. We had an agent, two of them went from 350 in income to 7 figures last year in less than 11 months.
And last year was a tough year for a lot.
Last year was not an easy year.
I mean, this year's also probably going to be a pretty similar year. Production's down in most parts of the country, 30 to 50%. So for someone to increase in a down market, is great. And I'm going to guess, because Sam and I were actually talking about this yesterday, that I'm really into mindset. I would say I'm persuading him that it's a good way to think. Right? He thinks it might be like a little out there in the universe to talk about our mindset. But I think that if you have a bad mindset, you're not going to have success over time. You might have like bloops of it, but that long game isn't going to be there, because that energy that you're giving out, you're not going to attract the right people. So what are some pieces, because you've talked about mindset, what are some ways you think agents in a down market, right, that maybe had the goal of 3xing their business and they realize it's probably not going to happen, to not get stuck in a rut? What kind of mindset nuggets can you give everyone?
Well, I think that the first thing is, and I never liked this phrase, but it when people say, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I've never liked the phrase because I think that has the word can't in it. And so I just always like, I don't like that phrase. But the truth is that that's the first problem. So if you're walking around saying these new rules are going to kill us or they're going to ruin us, that has to be depleted. That has to be about, just have to say that's not the case. All kinds of people have been doing this already, whatever you have to tell yourself. But here's another one. When people say there are no listings, there's no inventory, we have actually hurt ourselves with a self-fulfilling prophecy of telling the public there's no inventory, when in fact, we are resourceful. You have a better way to go out and what I call an exclusive marketing plan to go out and get listings that are not yet on the market. And why aren't we talking about that? We have a database. We have people in our offices that are working with sellers. I have access to listings that are not yet on the market yet, and I will find you a house, Tanya. I just need to know where you want to live. Yes. That is a different mindset than walking around saying, this is going to take a while. And here's my least favorite phrase. I'm waiting for something to come up in the MLS. And it's like, guys, you're better than this.
You're better than that.
You have a database. You can go farm neighborhoods. You could go create the inventory. And so when somebody says there's been 7 multiple offer and one person got the house, like go after those listings because there are 6 more people that didn't get that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think the other thing on mindset is this, like, you can restart your day anytime. Like you can say, you can start your day and say, I'm having a really bad day, and it can continue that way. Or you can arrest it and say, you know what? I'm going to go, whatever you have to do. Like go get a Starbucks, go get a glass of water, take a walk, go work out, call a friend, meditate, hit the reset button, but do not. I mean, it is misery loves company. And I feel like people, if they're stuck, it's because it's easier. Like people don't get the fact that it's easier to complain about the problem than to do the necessary action to get out of it. And so maybe you need to say, what do I need to change in my daily routine? Or what do I need to change in my daily thinking? The information you're consuming might be telling you. Whatever we consume is end up believing.
Correct.
Whether it's turning off social media for a while or turning off even just the dings that come up on the phone that distract us from focusing on the thing we said we were going to do during this hour of time blocking. Like you need to put in some discipline. We have distractions all over the place. We have a, attention span of a goldfish now. I mean, it's not fun. And so maybe you need to just go back to like, turn off this stuff, turn off the noise, turn it off and say, what gives me clarity? What gives me purpose? How can I add another 1 listing and sale per month? Maybe it's 2. Maybe you want to do the house a week thing that I always talk about, like 4 sales a month. I don't know, but have a reason. And I think you talked about it before the show. If you don't have a why, you don't know where you're going, sort of haphazardly doing this.
I meet agents all the time and they tell me about their business and they have kind of that like up and down, feast and famine. And I say this, and I say, hey, please don't take this the wrong way, but you're doing real estate on accident. Like
that's right.
You're just having random conversations, and you're obviously good enough to turn those random conversations. Like you have those conversations are intentional, but you're not intentionally having conversations to build relationships, to have sales. So we need to change that. We need to ensure that you're setting yourself up for success. Because if you want to do more, then we got to change what you're doing. Because if you just randomly are getting your hair cut and the girl before you and just getting a house wants to sell her house, and you just happen to have that introduction and that your hairdresser didn't have any of your business cards. What? Like if you weren't there that day, you wouldn't have gotten it, and that person would have just picked somebody at Starbucks or the farm postcard they got that day. So agents forget that, there's a lot of realtors out there, and you've got to train your people that when they think of real estate, they think of you. But if you're not setting it up that way and you just think haphazardly, randomly, I'm just going to come up in conversation, you got to be intentional.
And making sure that you are like taking action. We're sitting around, everyone's getting ready to get ready. You know?
What is it called? Like when you're
Ready
information, they just keep, I just came out of my brain, where they just keep researching, analysis paralysis.
I'm getting ready to do that. I haven't done it yet. Look.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this Elevate with Us podcast.